Episode 7, Season 1 of FutureSounds FM. I'm delighted to be joined on the panel by Thom, Rob and Patrick Fakeman. Thom, fresh from the strangest DJ set I think I've ever heard of. Mr. Fakeman from an epic summer boat party followed by what sounds like the journey home from hell. And Rob, well, Rob's been to a musical, but more on that. All of that later. And this week, obviously, we'll be catching up with Timecop 1983 ahead of the release of the classic EP Running in the Dark. We've got an update on the progress with the Nobody Here film project. And perhaps we can have a little chat about this sudden influx of Kate Bush covers. Gentlemen, how are we doing? Who wants to kick us off?
Ooh.
Thom, tell us about your DJ set.
Yeah, because I haven't heard much about this.
I'll start with the kind of better and more exciting news. So I'm recording from studio space, which I've just finished constructing. So I'm in a soundproof room with all my keyboards, my drums, all my guitars. I'm living the dream. Less idyllic was a Dyson DJ set in Leeds that we were booked to do by some music management students. It sounded like a really good thing, actually. Like, we're always happy to perform for students. You know, I think students make up a big portion of the audience for sort of synthwave and vaporwave, and they're, you know, super enthusiastic. But yeah, they said they were doing like an vaporwave outrun event, which sounded pretty standard. And then, you know, they changed the theme to cyberpunk, which is still just about okay. I mean, it's not really a genre of music, but like, we've got plenty of tunes about robots and spaceships and things. But you know, with a few days to go, we started getting sent like traditional Chinese music and Chinese trap songs, and being told that we needed to play that. And Jay and I really got the heebie-jeebies about this event. And yeah, it turned out real bad. Like nothing we played that was relevant to the theme worked. And you know, we were really like scraping around for sort of K-pop, J-pop, Chinese pop songs, like to the extent that somebody tried to buy an aux cable off me so they could play off their phone.
Oh my lord, please no.
Didn't you guys actually go and sit down to the side of the booth at one point for an hour or so while they played tunes on Spotify?
So the worst thing was, like, these guys were being assessed. Like, this was their final project of a master's degree, and like, it just drifted so far off piece, because I don't think any of their mates who they brought along wanted to hear music that was relevant to their theme. Like, I think, like, as a visual aesthetic, like having a sort of outrun or cyberpunk event is fine, but they wanted to hear chart pop music, or like more specifically like Chinese chart pop music. Like the audience, it was 100% international students, the audience, and like their mates just weren't really supporting the organizers at all, because, you know, they turned up at the club and just wanted to hear what they normally, you know, went and listened to and danced to on a Friday night. It was grim. It was really grim. Yeah. But yeah, we bonded with their professor. Their professor's wicked. Like, he used to make industrial music in the 80s, like released on Rough Trade and stuff. Really cool guy. He's called Stan Erot. But yeah, like, it was surreal, man. So surreal. We played for like 6 hours as well.
Oh 6 hours.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that is great. I wish I'd come just for the experience of it. But I was following it on WhatsApp for a point until you guys kind of got stuck into it. But my favourite was when you texted saying they'd asked what food, if you had any dietary requirements. And didn't you say something like, oh yeah, well, I'm all right. No requirements for me. But Jay, my brother, is like, he's vegetarian.
Yeah.
And so what did they say to you?
They said they'd take me to McDonald's and that they were going to make him a salad.
Well prepared.
Which ignores, like, my brother's like massively obsessed with McDonald's as well. There's loads of vegan options on their menu now, or vegetarian options anyway. But oh well, I mean, it sounds like a
disaster.
Yeah.
We basically just went, like, we got a sense it was going to be weird. We kind of just went for the anecdotes, really.
Yeah, I think it's when you're getting sent a day or two before, we need you to play these tracks or tracks from this folder.
Yeah, well, they asked for our set list for approval, right? And it was like a 6-hour DJ set. Like, no DJ plans out a 6-hour DJ set. You know, I was like, do you want me to tell you like all 5,000 songs that are on my USB stick? And like, I feel like they were potentially like monitoring it for sensitive content and stuff. Right. I was wary. Like, I do have some Chinese music, but like it's in, you know, it's canto pop, it's Hong Kong stuff, and I think, you know, that could have been very problematic. There's a Dyson song on Midland's Reality, which samples a canto pop song, I don't think it would have gone down well.
They were watching you.
Well, maybe they are.
Martin, why don't you tell us about the boat trip? Because you went to Outland's event.
Yeah, so
weekend.
we're recording this on Sunday evening, and last night was the return of our sort of fellow promoters, Outland, for events. They'd had a boat party booked up for 2 or 3 years now, and with obviously the big C, COVIDs, delaying it and pushing everything back, they finally got around to doing it. So yeah, it was a nice, warm, sunny evening in London. So we went up and down the Thames. They had it was DJ sets because the space within the boat itself is limited. So they had a band called The Last Concord that I think are on Outland's label. They then had Laura Dre, Max Speed, who he tends to find himself at most events DJing sort of at the topping and tailing of it.
He played Outrun Sun, didn't he?
He did,
in
yeah.
Derby.
He also played Jack's event in Bristol, which I'm sure we'll get on to.
Oh, cool.
They then were supposed to have Morgan Willis, but Morgan Willis' flight was cancelled, so they had Sunglasses Kid, who did a bit of a variation on the set that he did for us at the FutureSounds event. And then it was FM Attack.
Oh, cool.
So it was big, varied evening. Laura Dre did a city pop set, and the rest of them sort of did kind of well-known synthwave sort of, and a bit of 80s stuff in there as well. But it was a nice evening. It was pleasant. It was fun. And then there was definitely a different crowd there from what we may have traditionally have seen before. I think with COVID, a lot of people have kind of discovered the genre in the last couple of years, and so it's we're starting to find people. But it's nice to see some fresh and different faces, because very often I think a few years back we'd go to these events and you just saw the same people over and over and over again, which is fine because they're all good friends, etc. But it's nice to see some music being shared a bit further afield.
Fresh faces, yeah.
And then, as you commented on, then on the stroll home, just happened to be jumped by some teenagers and people getting glassed and all that sort of stuff. So I got home about 3 a.m. this morning.
Oh my God.
It's absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. And you guys are okay?
Absolutely fine, thank you. There's just bruises and bits and pieces. But it ultimately didn't... It takes a shine off of a good night. Because it sobers you up quite quickly as well. But that's... sometimes London's that way, isn't it?
It really is. Well,
shouldn't be.
It's like that in major cities everywhere, unfortunately, isn't it? And, there's something in the air at the minute, it feels. But Stu's been really unlucky. Outland have been really unlucky with this event. Because like you said, it's been a couple of years in the making, with Morgan Willis having to cancel so short notice before because of issues with flights and stuff. It kind of felt like they were a bit cursed. So I'm really pleased to hear that it went off well. I would have gone, but for I can't get so many free passes these days.
Baby passes are few and far between. But what I didn't say, which I should have said, they also had VHS Dreams DJing there as well.
Oh, nice!
Oh, wicked!
Wicked.
I haven't seen him for a while.
He lives down your way, I understand, doesn't he? Someone told me he lives in... Oh, no, someone told me he lives in Skegness or something. Someone told me he lives on a beach kind of area.
I heard he'd moved up to Manchester or somewhere. But he left the synthwave scene for a while and started doing... He did an official approved remix of that Sons of a Loop-de-Loop era track, Far Out. It's like a 92 rave piano hardcore track, basically. And, he was going big down that route, well away from synthwave.
His set did reflect that. His set was a bit more kind of that nature as well.
Cool. And Rob, you've been to a musical this week, Back to the Future, wasn't it?
Yeah, very different, very family, wholesome, orientated thing.
Was it good?
Yeah,
though?
we'd been before, my wife and I, but this is when my kid, who's 7, steadfastly refused to go, and then we said we'd gone, or we saw a program or something. He's like, "What? You went without me?" I was like, "Yeah, man, like you told us to." He's like, I can't believe you would do this. So we rebooked some tickets, and they were cheap tickets. So we went along, and I'd got it into his head that he could like meet the cast and stuff. So I was like, I've really managed his expectations badly there. So sure enough, we went around the corner, we went to the stage door, the cast came out, he got his little program signed, and he absolutely loved it. And then today, as it happens, we were in Trafalgar Square, and there was like West End Live. So there were again like loads of like free. Do you know what I mean? Songs and stuff from the West End. So he's mad into all that stuff. He loves it. So yes, a very wholesome, no fighting, family oriented. It was wicked, man. Back to the Future. Like, I've got very high standards because I love that. I adore that movie. So to impress me was tough, but I did it.
I've heard nothing but good things about it as a musical. Look, and visually, it looks like it's quite cool as well.
Yeah, visually stunning, really amazing, like British tech team that pioneered it. They're taking it to Broadway next year. So it started off in Manchester, and now it's based in London, and then they're going to take it to America, which is quite unusual. But Bob Gale, Bob Zemeckis, like all the original writers and producers and stuff, and Alan Silvestri, who did all the soundtrack, all the score, he's co-written all of this with another guy, Greg Ballard or somebody like that. So it's like in safe hands. So all the people that are originally involved with it, again, which is why it's such a great production. So yeah, a bit miles away from Faber and Synthwave, but 80s influenced nonetheless.
We should touch on, you mentioned it before, Martin, we should touch on the Bristol event, because obviously we all went there a few weeks ago. Tom, you played it. Well, actually, me and Martin played DJ sets there as well.
It was a fun evening. I think that those of us that were doing DJ sets were downstairs in the DJ room. He did have a name for it, but I forget what it was called.
DJ Dungeon, I think.
Dungeon. It may have been a dungeon. Yeah, it was just a good. I think I had a good time. I was happy I was on first, so there were a few people sort of lingering around, and I was on during an interval, so just sort of threw out some synthwave that people would know and a few 80s tracks in there as well. But I don't know if you guys felt the same, but I thought it was a good time. I know Enzo, you were on at the end of the night throwing out some real
I was
bangers.
quite nervous because I didn't get to play the set at FutureSounds, and I got quite drunk by the time I went on, and there weren't many people downstairs, and that actually reassured me. And as soon as I put tunes on, I was lucky, I think, that people must have heard, like, I played a couple of tracks, and then I played a couple of rave tracks, and I don't know whether that attracted a few people in. I ended up with a little crowd. Tom, I think you had that for a while you were playing as well.
Yeah,
didn't you?
nice little crowd. I don't know.
Yeah,
15,
it
20
was
people,
fun.
but in
It was
a
just wicked
tiny
fun.
little sort of shoebox. So, it's fun.
Yeah. But the event itself was great. Like, Iverson were amazing. Paradise Walk were amazing. Beckett, I saw bits of that. Wolf Club are always amazing. I'm running out of...
FHE.
Who else?
There's FHE, Wave Shaper.
Yes.
I'm probably missing somebody.
That's a great lineup.
My highlight of the day was probably Neon Tenic had flown over from abroad, and we obviously worked with him on TimeSlave, and he said to me, look, my mission today is to meet and chat to Wave Shaper. And got kind of managed to ferry them both into the same place, and they had a pint together.
Oh,
and
that's nice.
Yeah, both lovely people, and there were quite a few people, a bit like our event, quite a few people coming from Europe.
Yeah.
So they've come from far afield. So there's still not that many events on the horizon, so kind of, fair play to Jack. I know he's got another event in Bristol. It's a good place if you're UK based or Europe based, as it seems. Bristol's definitely a place worth checking out because it's a nice city, and Jack and Johnny put on a really good show.
Well done, Jack.
They worked very hard on it, so it was good.
100%. So, what have we been listening to this week? Have I missed anything else? Is there anything else? Oh no, let's talk about Kate Bush covers. Can we touch on this? I saw this thing on Twitter. Yeah, no, I'm sure there's good ones as well, but I saw this thing on Twitter. It was like, Martin, you quoted it. You quote tweeted it. Someone was saying, hot take on Kate Bush.
They wrote, unpopular opinion, Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill wasn't a popular song until now.
What?
Other than the dope synthwave music, the weak singing had me checked out. At least Chromatics did a cover that made little justice. Now I want to hear a real synth pop cover with better singing. I just felt
Wait, better singing than Kate Bush?
It would be hard to find it.
That's so obviously
that's just someone trolling. That's not a real opinion. That's just somebody trying to.
I think the part about it being popular now, that people act like because it never went to number one. But if you dig into the numbers and go beyond the chart number, like the fact it only got to number 3 in the UK, and number 20 in the UK in the early 80s would get to number one now.
Yeah.
Like the numbers required to get to the top of the charts are infinitely smaller than they used to be. Like selling to get to number 2 or 3 in the charts was massive.
And also, like, she's an album lady, right? And that Hounds of Love album, the whole thing is a fantastic
whole thing.
And Cloud Busting. People are like, you haven't heard Cloud Busting yet,
yeah.
kids. Wait till you hear that.
Yeah, there's a lot of gatekeeping happening from people who liked Kate Bush before, and they're kind of a bit offended. And I've got to be honest, I'm a bit sick of hearing that song now.
It's been
but then
overplayed.
I've heard nothing but every time I turn the car on, I hear this fucking Harry Styles single, and I cannot get out of my head.
It's catchy as hell.
It's killing me. It's killing me.
80s inflected one.
But yeah, fair play to him. He seems to have taken over the planet at the minute. But
to be fair to Harry Styles, he's been like in all his interviews and stuff, he's been giving massive props to Hiromi Hosono from the Yellow Magic Orchestra. Like he lifted, so like the whole concept, right? The record's called Harry's House, I think, and he basically stole the whole, I mean, that name and just like the general vibe off Hosono's kind of post Yellow Magic Orchestra solo stuff. So that's quite a cool thing to be throwing out into the mainstream. And like, just like people, you know, Gen Z kids will be discovering Kate Bush off the back of this. Like, if people are going to be discovering Yellow Magic Orchestra and related projects, and that's fucking cool in my opinion.
And I toned down my criticism of him then, because I was a bit. I'm getting sick of the song. But in fairness, we've had this conversation before, and I've seen it written about loads of times about The Weeknd, like helping synthwave into greater public conscience. But it's not unless the artist actually is actively referencing stuff. And if Harry Styles is actively making sure that people are aware of what his influences are, and he's proud of them and quoting them, then that does shine a light on a new generation onto music. So that is really cool. But I am sick of the song, so can he release another one?
I mean, I've only heard a couple of them.
So I can try and avoid that as well.
I've only had a couple of them. Sorry.
No, go on, mate.
I've only had a one or two of these new versions, and the one or two I've heard are absolute dirges that mess up the melody. If I get all up, the vocals are weird.
You mean the Kate Bush covers?
Yes.
Yeah, because there are everyone's churning them out. I think me and you might have shared with each other a particular one, which we won't name on a podcast, but it was just bloody awful.
Yeah.
It's like someone's pulled it together in 5 minutes. The lyrics aren't even right. It's like, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
You get so many of these like TikTok-y remixes where they put the acapella on the wrong beat as well. Like I heard there's like a Smells Like Teen Spirit like EDM version, and they put the vocal like it's like a quarter note out. And also this like fucking Louis Theroux rap, like that's gone like super viral. Like the viral version of it, like they've strapped his acapella like completely wrong over the drum beat. It like really grinds my gears.
The one thing I'll say on that hot take is that the Chromatics cover, which was obviously well before Stranger Things, is really
it's great.
Good.
Very good.
Yeah.
It is a great track, and I just think it's obviously a nifty little marketing trick. If you can get a fairly well received cover of a famous track, you're going to appear quite high in the Spotify searches when people, and if you run through all the versions of the official producer of the track, people will come to your version and you'll get more praise. And that there's a sense to it in that sense. But
people are saying that she she owns the copyright, she owns the publishing rights, so she's making a fair penny from it, which is fair play to her. And I keep seeing silly memes saying she's now earning £1 million a week. She's now earning £17 million a day. It's like, I don't know what the truth is, but the fact that a woman is getting what's due to her in this time is brilliant to hear and understand. And
also 40 years after she created it in the first place. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
I must have followed Kate Bush on Facebook many moons ago, but I've been getting updates from her official page daily as it climbed the iTunes charts. Then it climbed the real charts, the official charts, and all these kind of momentous like leaps that it's gone on in the last couple of weeks. And I've dug out the album again for the first time in years, so it's definitely put me on to
really weird second half, doesn't it? It's sort of a bit like Low. Like
I was about to say that,
records,
where it just goes all super weird.
Yeah. First half, put all the pop songs first half. Yeah. Second half is like collage stuff.
It's called the second wave. The second side being I think it's called the second wave. I need to double check. Someone's probably shouting when they're listening to this, saying, "No, it's bloody not. It's called this." But no, it's nice. When I went, I was lucky enough to go and see her at the Hammersmith Apollo a few years ago when she did that. When she did that 2-week piece, and the second half of the show is just that side of the album, and they sort of act it out. In its entirety, it was really good. Ever so good.
That's cool. Yeah, it's kind of song cycly, isn't it? It seems to have like a vague narrative and stuff.
Yeah,
she's
completely.
Still
touring.
It's
got a story.
Very literary.
No, because she hadn't done anything since I want to say like 82 or 83, and I think the suggestion was this is it. There won't be any more. Right.
She's super reclusive, really, isn't she?
She's a huge recluse. I think she was at an award ceremony recently, but you didn't really get to see much of her at all.
There's apparently in existence a track that she recorded with Big Boy from Outkast.
Oh, really?
Like Big Boy is an enormous Kate Bush fan, and they made a track together allegedly, which is yet to see the light of day. But like Kate Bush has had like weirder collaborators than Big Boy. I can see it coming out. You know, like there's that track with Lenny Henry on backing vocals, Lenny Henry and Prince.
And
then,
really?
What?
Yeah.
Because of course she also had Rolf Harris on Ariel,
Yeah,
didn't she? And I
not
think
so good.
I know that when they remastered the album, they changed it to somebody else.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's called The Painter.
I often wonder if Oasis regret the opening track of What's the Story, Morning Glory.
Rock and Roll
to be
Star.
back. No,
Oh,
it's good to be
Hello.
It's good to be back.
Yeah. Did they get stung for that?
The Gary. No, well, it's a Gary Glitter.
Yeah,
cover.
but did they get like? Did anybody come after them, like the Rolling Stones and the Verve? Did somebody go like, you can't just wholesale lift our?
I think they had to clear it.
Right.
I think they had to clear it. But in the same way as they could never put whatever on either of their albums because there was so much lifted in the instrumentation that when they went to clear that, they said, we'll have to take a cut of the whole release. So they put it on an EP instead.
That's why they did that.
Album.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good knowledge.
Yeah. There we are. Right, so we've all been listening to Kate Bush. What have we been listening to that's not Kate Bush? How about we kick off? Tom, do you want to kick off for the
Yeah,
week?
sure. I mean, I've been watching loads of Glastonbury coverage. I've seen some amazing stuff. Like Rasheen Murphy's set blew my mind. I think she's so incredible, and she's really giving me ideas about what I want to do when I work with female vocalists in future. Like, I think she's just, you know, like Kate Bush was sort of trailblazer, you know, in her day. I really think Rasheen Murphy is like one of the great pop stars of like this millennium. I think like her performance was incredible, and her music and her visual presentation is amazing.
If you're listening to this, get in touch with Tom.
Yeah. I doubt it. Yeah, and
We'll tag her in and see it.
you don't shoot your shot, right? Yeah, and some other cool stuff like TLC set was really good. Fortet set was really good. Burna Boy, who's like an Afrobeats artist, I thought that was really cool. But in terms of like actual new music, I'm going to choose a track from Stereolab. I think it's actually like a previously unreleased song rather than like a newly recorded one, and it's called Robot Riot. They made it for a sculpture exhibition. I think the artist is called Charles Long, and he makes these like amorphous blobs and kind of furniture and stuff. But yes, Stereolab's a wicked band. I've loved them forever. Every musical project I've ever been part of has kind of been influenced by Stereolab. You know, I've always liked bringing electronic instruments into rock music and vice versa. And you know, Stereolab did that amazingly. And they played around with language. Yeah, super motoric stuff. Playing around with language as well. Like we do it in Donor Lens a bunch. Like just having bits and pieces in other languages and stuff to kind of abstract meaning and just like make, you know, vocals are just sound, you know, like kind of Cocteau Twins kind of thing where the vocal melodies, it's no longer about the lyrics, it's just about how voices sound. So yeah, Stereolab singing in French and just mixing their vocals really quiet, and it's cool as hell. So yeah, Robot Riot.
Over to you then, Patrick. What have you been listening to, Mr. Fakeman?
So this week I started going through a little bit more of the listening to some of the acts that are going to be at Electronicon 3 in August. And I think it had been prompted by the fact I booked my plane ticket this week. So I was like, right, that's done. Get myself a little bit more pumped up for it. So I was going through, but kind of ended up, as not surprisingly, kind of kept going back to Death's Dynamic Shroud. So I was listening to some of their early kind of I'll Try Living Like This album, which I think's a classic anyway. Doesn't need to be overstated too much. And then, of course, I think it was one of you gentlemen kindly reminded me that they have been releasing some new stuff recently. So I went and had a bit of a listen to some of that, because I think they've got a new EP coming out probably in the next few months, I would imagine. And
it's on pre-order now.
Yeah, it is. I picked it up.
Cool.
So I picked Neon Memories from those new releases themselves, and it's quite different. It's there's a review they quote on it from Lyrical Lemonade, I think they're called. It must be it looks like a blog of some sort. And then they called it, I've got it in front of me here, indie pop track that evolves into a massive electronic behemoth. And that's probably quite accurate, actually, because it's quite an indie synth poppy sort of track. It's quite vocal heavy, but it does develop and change and build and sort of layer into what becomes quite I think quite an experimental and interesting track. I really enjoyed it. So my one this week is Death's Dynamic Shroud with Neon Memories.
Lonelier than yesterday, tranquil like you can never get back on alone today. Blowing all the clouds away, tranquil like you can never get back on a sunny day. I'm following my heart bleeds and I'm across the I'm never coming back. When I'm gone, I'll return. I'll take what I have done and just fade away. These memories are something I never wanted to keep anyway.
So that was Death's Dynamic Shroud with Neon Memories.
You know that when you're buying records from America, we should combine our shipping together. It's probably cheaper for us. I know that's taken away from the conversation about the music.
Very true.
If you bought the vinyl, I'm going to buy the vinyl. We'll pay double shipping.
I actually only bought the digital for this one so far.
Cool.
We'll see.
But didn't you say, Tom, you were telling me about this, isn't Keith Rankin fully on board with them now?
Yeah, that's the impression I get, that and it seems to be a 3-piece rather than a 2-piece these days. And Keith Rankin, in as much as you can tell who does what when, multiple people are involved in making electronic music, I think he contributes that sort of contemporary classical and kind of cinematic edge. Like, I think that their tracks have got like bigger and bigger in scope. And I think so Martin, you were saying there's like an indie kind of singer-songwriter thing going on. Like that's very much sort of Tech and James's thing. They love their Radiohead, they love their Muse. Keith Rankin, kind of goes in there with the orchestral instruments and the kind of trailer stings, Hollywood trailer stings. And I think that adds a really cool, I was going to say dynamic, I can't say dynamic, adds a cool facet to their sound. So yeah, three is better than 2. Maybe we need a new Donor Lens member. We'll take offers.
You're auditioning,
yeah. Rashid,
I'll send you a
she
CV.
can join.
in a flash. There's that mad Venn diagram going around on Reddit that I saw, like where all of the different albums that they've done and who's involved in each individual project. And for a long time, Keith actually has probably been the least active of the 3, so it's good they've got him in.
But he made possibly their biggest or most successful record completely on his own, which is kind of hilarious to me. Like Jay and I joke about that with Donor Lens. It's like if we got sort of you or Yana to make a Donor Lens record and it like went on to get reviewed by Anthony Fantano and stuff. Just get somebody else to do it, release it under the banner. They've got a really interesting way of doing business, don't they? Like I think they're set up as a limited company, and like whatever happens under the umbrella, they kind of share the proceeds. It's very cool.
Yeah, it's really nice. And the other thing about them, especially with this track as well, with that kind of indie vibe, they don't sound like, but they give me beta band vibes.
Nice. Yeah, kind of DIY, multi-instrumentalist, expansive.
Yeah. But I also love that they'll pick completely bait samples. Like, isn't one of their tracks, I think the one that we had on Flamingo Funk 1 or 2, had a Katy Perry sample, I think. And it's just like chopped up to within an inch of its existence. But they're taking these really bait sources and turning it into something really distinctive. They have their own.
I heard there's a lot of Dua Lipa on Faith and Persona, which is crazy. Like it's all going on. All their stuff's on streaming services, and they've got sort of current chart pop acts, a cappella, like just there. Yeah.
It does make you wonder how effective the algorithm is in some respects. Like if you chop it up that much,
probably can't detect
does it get picked up instantly?
Pick it up.
Yeah, I don't know.
YouTube's pretty good at sniffing out samples. I think they don't bother on Spotify.
Instagram are just obsessed with banning artists from playing their own music.
It does a
big crackdown this week. Yeah.
Everyone's been talking about it. I think it's hit most people we know. They're like, I can't play my own song. I saw Occam's talk about that. I saw Sunglasses Kid talk about that. It's ridiculous, man.
Yeah. What about you, Rob? What have you been listening to?
I've little did I know, I've rediscovered something. To my mind, it came out on Spotify last month, but actually, I think it originally came out on Bandcamp October 2021, and that is a Trans-Canadian Express EP by Strawberry Station, who I saw play at your guys' FutureSounds gig a little while back. So apparently, I didn't realise, when I met him, because he doesn't sound like he's from Canada, but he was there for 2 years. And apparently, this EP he created and entirely recorded whilst he was on board, the transatlantic continental train from Toronto to Vancouver in Canada, which sounds like an awesome thing to do. And the track I've picked from it is Jasper. It's 2 minutes 26. I googled Jasper because I was quite interested, and it's like an alpine town, amid the Canadian Rockies. And sonically, now when I'm listening to it, I can kind of hear that in it. And what I like about it is it samples my favourite Cliff Richard song, Wired for Sound, and sort of true plunder phonics, kind of just takes that Cliff Richard refrain, but you wouldn't really recognise it unless you really love Wired for Sound. It's quite short, But again, like sonically, it like reflects that Canadian landscape. So yeah, he's done a really good job with it. So it came out last month on Spotify. There was a track that made the Forever Since New Release playlist, but I gather it's more like about 8 months old. So here's Jasper by Strawberry Station.
I'm Strawberry Station, and you're listening to FutureSounds FM.
That was lovely, just lovely description there, Rob.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks, man.
I really
You
enjoyed
painted a
that.
picture with your words. I'm on that train.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful, right? So
Yeah.
am I.
Canada's an amazing, beautiful country as well.
and I did a bit of that. I went from Toronto to Ottawa, and then across somewhere, and then separately I went to Vancouver. It's just a beautiful country. So yeah, I'd love to go back. My wife used to live there.
But we were supposed to go there. I think it was April 2020. Was that the year that COVID started? 2020? Yeah.
Yeah.
We were going to go and film at Essential. And it was going to be the kickoff.
Yeah, we were
of,
supposed to be
making
playing,
the
weren't
film.
we? Some of us.
That's right. Yeah.
Man, I hope that happens.
Yeah. I don't think it will. I think the guys who were organising it have kind of fallen by the wayside, but I think there's others that are still kind of loosely involved who are looking to bring something back to Canada soon. So it'd be good to get out there. For sure.
Definitely.
It'd be good fun.
That just on the Strawberry Station thing, he's a big Kraftwerk boy.
Is he?
He loves his Kraftwerk. So it's called
Interesting.
Trans Canada Express, right? The EP.
Yes,
Yeah, so that's obviously a nod to Trans Europe Express. So yeah,
makes
it's one of the
sense.
things you wouldn't necessarily know from his music, but he's a big Kraftwerk boy. I think he loves his Fairport convention as well. I think he has
Really?
a past life as a folky dokey.
Interesting.
That's
I can kind of see that with the hairstyle.
yeah.
He's got the mop top. He's got
looks a bit moddy.
I'm going to say 1967. 1967 London.
Yeah.
That kind of hairstyle.
he's full of surprises. That Strawberry Station.
Interesting.
That reminds me, I need to send him his t-shirt.
He's feature funky.
He left a t-shirt behind when we filmed for the interview in Leicester a couple of months ago, and I took it back with us.
Was he topless?
And I,
I was going to say,
no, he went
naked.
back to his job. Yeah, it wasn't that warm when we filmed, to be fair. But was it you, Tom, who was telling me about, or was it Jerome saying about the new algorithm on Spotify and how everyone's been driven to write shorter and shorter tracks? Who's been? Or was it Chris that was telling
Yeah, I
us
don't know
it?
much about that.
If no one knows much about it, then don't worry about it. But apparently, everyone's kind of being pushed by the Spotify algorithm to write songs that are sub 2 minutes 30 now to really make
interesting.
cut through. So obviously in
Yeah.
the 60s, every pop single had to be 3 minutes or under, and songs like, I don't know, Hey Jude and Bohemian Rhapsody broke the mold. And
They say don't do intros anymore. Like you got to bang straight into the hook, and like basically if you're
like
sort of scrolling.
She Loves You.
Yeah, I mean, like, so that's an old thing, but like the medium is the message, right? And like the medium in this case, I think it's more of a TikTok thing than a Spotify thing, to be honest.
Yeah, probably,
like you start your song with the hook, and like when you're choosing a track to soundtrack your video, if the hook just is, delivers straight away, then you're likely to select that for your video. I think the Spotify thing, like from an artist perspective, like I can see if you make loads of short songs, like I know Drake has like truckloads of the tracks on most of his albums. I don't know about the new one, and I think you're just collecting streaming royalties on all of them. So
if someone listens to
why
whole
wouldn't
album,
you? Yeah, like because you get paid like after people have heard your track for 20 or 30 seconds. So like there's nothing stopping you making your tracks 31 seconds long and just doing loads of them.
Still get paid, yeah.
And having 0 seconds gaps between the tracks, I suppose, because it does just run through, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Shall I?
What's your track, Enzo?
Well, I have been listening to quite a lot of The Strokes this week, but I'm not going to pick that. My daughter seems to really like it. She also likes NWA.
Yeah, the clean version.
But I did send a video. I don't know if I've sent you all the video, but she just randomly started dancing the other day. I was listening to Express Yourself. Yes,
it was
Robert,
the clean version.
Yeah, it was.
Brother this and brother that.
For the purposes of this story, it was. Yeah. But she just started randomly dancing. She's just got to the point where she'll walk with the aid of holding, like the sofa or the table or whatever. But she was just holding onto the table in the living room and just shacking out to NWA. And why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? It's a great track.
Her first tune. So,
isn't it?
Yeah. I've been playing that a lot. She finds it really funny.
Easy's dad, isn't it? Express Yourself was originally recorded by Easy's dad, wasn't it? So I think they got the sample really easily.
Oh wow!
It was his old, right? Yeah, it was his dad's old band, and it was like, Dad, can we borrow your tune?
Yes,
yeah,
son.
Of course you can.
That was about that was the shape of the negotiation.
I think so. I mean, we could be making that up. He could have charged in the world, but I just remember that being the case. That it was his dad's old band.
Either way, it's an absolute tune. But no, my pick for this week is it's kind of PS1 jungle. Thom, I got to thank him for sharing that with me in the first instance. I think it's Pizza Hotline. He's released an album called Level Select. I get like huge LTJ Bookham vibes from this album. I can't help but find myself transported back to like my student days, listening to old Don FM tapes, playing Wipeout. And as someone like myself, I always wax lyrical about the early rave scene. But like someone who emerged into adulthood with this backdrop of jungle and drum and bass growing bigger and bigger, I think if you've experienced that, you just get it. You just know when someone gets it, rather, like if that makes sense. Like when someone's channeling that kind of nostalgic tint, like Pizza Hotline, he just seems to sound authentic. And there's a lot of vaporwave out there that's channeling this style and this era, but there aren't too many artists, I think, that sound this authentic, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because they might not be trying to really be back in '92, but it just sounds like he knows this music like the back of his hand, and that's charming for someone like me. And I could have picked any track from the album because it's a complete banger from start to finish, but I'm going to go for the cheap luxury remix of Low Poly Romance by Japan Novelty, who I believe is a friend of his who lives in Wales. So we're going to have to try and dig deeper into that, because I've been chatting to him a little bit on Twitter this last week, because he's locally based as well.
Yeah, he's in the UK, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he's playing at that Pure Life show that you were telling us about a couple of episodes back. So if one of us or all of us can get there, it'd be quite good to catch up with him in person. But this is one of the slower cuts off the album in a good way. It's kind of 1992 vibes all over again. So this is Low Poly Romance, and it's the Japan Novelty Cheap Luxury mix. That was Low Poly Romance, Japan Novelty's Cheap Luxury Mix. It's from the album Level Select by Pizza Hotline. It's an absolute banger. I implore you to check it out right now.
Excellent.
What's next, lads?
I kept meaning to ask you about Nobody Here, because I know you've been doing a few bits and pieces with it recently, Enzo.
Yeah, let's do an update, shall we? I actually spoke to Christian, who's the director. Obviously, you yourself have booked your flights. We've put in for our visas. We've got appointments in London in about a week or two, where we're going to have to go down there and get work visas.
Of course,
as opposed to the normal Esther, because we're going to be carrying a lot of film kit, and then Chris can't manage it on his own, so it makes sense to do everything super legit. We've had hundreds of emails since the crowdfund happened, and people desperate to know when, if, how this is all going to progress. But all along, I've been trying to keep things calm and assure people that we are going to get round to really kicking it off as soon as we possibly can. And COVID's been a real challenge, but we've managed to obviously already interview quite a few people who we can in the UK, who we're always intending to. There's a few people who, for obvious reasons, given that anonymity is one of the big themes of the scene, people who don't need to be filmed on camera. So we've been picking up quite a few of those characters over time, and we've got plenty more of them to grab as time progresses. But we've booked a trip to the States in August, where we'll be doing all of the US-based filming for the documentary. So this is like a huge logistical challenge. We're there Chris is out for the best part of 3.5 weeks. My brother and I will be going out there for a week and a bit, then coming back for a while, and then going back out for the last week and a bit. And we've been putting together a lot of interviews for there. So we're starting in Chicago, then going on to New York for Electronicon and the tape swap the day before that. Then there's a trip across the country, which is going to eventually lead us to Los Angeles, where we'll be taking in Bay's big show, which is in the early part of September. So I don't really want to name too many names, because we've been asked by people, what's the interview list? I just don't think that's necessary for us to do. I don't think it's appropriate, because it's an evolving buffet. There's people that we would love to get who haven't yet agreed to be in it. There's really big names that we would love to get, people who are far transcended and sort of stepped away from the vaporwave scene, but who would be really interesting contributors, and they're people we continue to work on. But I can, name a few people like Chaz from SPF 420, Golden Living Room, Van Porgum, St. Pepsi, George Clanton, Bay Whitewoods. We're going to speak to Fire Tools, Dan Mason. I'm going to stop
big days
there.
Already.
That's like a partial taster, and there's a lot of other people who we've confirmed, but we haven't nailed down days. And so until the logistics tie up, because don't forget, if we go to Chicago at the start, we can't go back. The country's huge. It's not like the UK where you can drive anywhere in a few hours. It's massive, and this is a logistical challenge that we're working on every single day, but it's happening. We're going to get the whole of the US side of things filmed halfway through August into early September, and then we've only got a few European trips, and hopefully finishing it off with a trip to Japan at the end. So we'll be looking at, with a fair wind and no further relapses in the COVID side of things, we'll be looking at starting things like editing and pulling the final film together like the early part of next year. So not too long now if you think about it. I mean, we're halfway through this year already.
Yeah.
We're talking a matter of 6 or 7 months left. We're going to make sure we try and get as much of it done before Christmas as we can. I think we might be able to achieve it all. We'll see.
Good luck, man.
Exciting stuff.
So hopefully that's kind of reassuring for people. Like, it is happening. I'll show you the receipts if you want.
Yeah, put them on Twitter to all your naysayers.
We do get asked
I've
by
seen
people,
it,
because I understand there's a lot of critics. There's people who don't think that it was appropriate to sell stuff before the film was made, and
partially
that
funded
misses
it,
the point, because it was a crowdfund. Well, it entirely funded it. I'm not. If I fund it from this business, My Pet Flamingo, then it becomes a My Pet Flamingo product, and that is not ethical. It's a documentary, and we're playing a supportive role, but Christian is very much the driving force in the film, and we've got people from a lot of different aspects of the scene who are inputting into what makes the story and what tells the story. It's a story, perhaps. It should have been called A Story of Vaporwave, perhaps, but we'll get there. And it is going to happen, so chill your beans. Yeah, so Jordy is someone, Jordy Timecop 1983. He's someone that we've worked with for a long time on TimeSlave Recordings. He's been around, I want to say, for the best part of a decade now.
I think so, at least.
Yeah, and he's one of the biggest names, certainly in the synthwave scene. He's played at a load of big shows throughout the world, and I'm really pleased that we got him together for this interview, because we managed to get him to release one of his old albums. It's Running in the Dark. It's an EP, I suppose, technically. There's 7 tracks on it, but given the length of the tracks, it adds up to more than the average LP. It's got some of his best tracks. Dimensions, for example, is probably my favourite Timecop track of all time. It's the one that I heard first from a YouTube video that got me into his music in the first instance. And yeah, he kind of pioneered this dreamwave sound that's been copied by many people, and it's become a legitimate kind of branch of the synthwave scene. So yeah, and as we've done with previous interviews, we laid the gauntlet to the followers to ask them what they wanted to ask. So there's some interesting questions that we might not have come up with ourselves, and all in all, I think it makes for an interesting interview.
Has anybody on the question list asked for a repress of anything of any sort?
I didn't put the question to Jordy because I can handle that in a WhatsApp message perhaps, but we did get a few people asking in DMs, is there going to be a repress of Night Drive? And we've already done 3, but I'm sure, why not? We'll do another one, shall we?
People just need to be a bit more organised and pay attention to release dates and times, and just hit that refresh button and buy it. It'll be there.
They do sell out quick. I mean, we did after the last time we did. I think it might have been, what was it, Reflections, perhaps?
Did you do Faded Touch?
And we said, look,
do that as well. Josh Darry.
Yeah. And I think it was that as well. And we quite possibly said after one of those 2 releases that from now on we will do 1,000 copies of any Jordy release and put them out on the same day so that everyone can grab one, because it's clear the demand is there. In the past we've done 500 and then done a repress, but it sells out really quickly and people just feel anxiety then because they've got to wait. We don't do pre-orders, so they have to wait months then for the chance to grab one, and you do kind of feel for people. So we've listened on that score, but what else can you say? I mean, he's a very popular artist. He's got a really interesting take on synthwave, having been involved in it for such a long time, and a really unique sound.
Very distinct. I remember I saw him support FM84 back in 2019.
Yeah.
And then
where was that? Was that the one in
it was in Brixton Electric?
Brixton.
Yeah,
Electric Brixton. Yeah. There's something about also with his sound, because it lends itself quite well to the like we were talking about Netflix before and Kate Bush about being picked up by streaming services, because I know that Jordy has had a couple of tracks picked up for certain shows. I need to remember which one it is. I was watching an episode of something on Prime, and suddenly one of his tracks is on the background in some kind of like beach scene. I was like, wow, that's quite cool. So I think
got very
some interesting
accessible sound, isn't it? Like it's probably a gateway for a lot of people into synthwave.
Well, it's quite dreamy. It's quite uplifting. It's quite wistful.
Good word.
It sounds like early summer evening.
Yes.
It's that kind of sound to me. It was quite. I found it quite captivating when I first heard it. That Dimensions track grabbed me, but also the album Journeys.
It's just
and those collaborations with Dana Jean Phoenix. We've got a track later on that we're going to play, which is a new single by Nevermann.
Oh yes,
which features Dana
produced
Jean
by
Phoenix.
OSC.
That's an amazing collab as well. But that track, I think it's Dreams on the album Journeys, is incredible. And yeah, that album's full of really good, really strong collaborations. But yeah, I was once visiting Cole from Retro Reverb Records in Palermo, and I happened upon a trainer shop. I was looking to buy some flip-flops for the beach, and one of his tracks came in there, and it helped me purchase. It felt like it was good purchasing music.
Tell him that.
It put me in a calm space, yeah. And I bought the most expensive flip-flops of the 2 that I was
considering. You should be getting a cut from that. He's a marketeer.
Well, if anyone out there who's thinking of music to play in their shop, to pipe through to calm down their punters and make them buy more things,
Timecop's your man.
I recommend Timecop.
It does have.
That's a good episode title. The most expensive flip flops. I like that.
Yeah. Okay. It does work. All right. Well, perhaps before we play out the interview, which was myself and Patrick Fakeman caught up with Jordy, how about we kick off with a track from the EP Running in the Dark, which is out on Friday. We've got 2 vinyl variants, 500 copies of each. One is a beautiful 3-color segment wax. The other is a 2-color splatter wax. It's got an Obi strip. It's got new artwork done by Mr. Occam's Laser. And it's an absolute classic. It's a beautiful, beautiful album. And you all know it anyway, so I don't know why I'm giving it such a hard sell. This is Dimensions from Running in the Dark. One, two, one, two, check, check, check. Okay. There we go. Right. We're joined by a man who needs no introduction, the world-renowned king of Dreamwave. It's Mr. Timecop, 1983 himself. Jordy, how are you doing? It's great to see you and to talk to you after quite a long time.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been too long. But yeah, it's been crazy times, but I've been good. So I've been very productive. Quit my day job during the pandemic, and yeah, I'm just ready to make music again.
You're answering
to go on the road again.
You're answering all of our questions right off the bat there.
Oh shit! Sorry.
No, I mean that's the thing. Obviously, we're coming off the back of a pandemic. You know, live scenes have shut down. I mean, just the way we live and work and interact with our families has been so dramatically put on ice, and it's kind of changed everything. Like, how have you found the last couple of years?
Yeah, pretty quiet, to be honest. It was kind of a good thing for me to not be able to do shows because, well, I didn't do that many shows, of course, but it was time to reset everything. And of course, it's bad or sad to not see the people that listen to my music and to not be on the road. But yeah, as I said, I was focusing on or doubting to quit my day job before the pandemic as well. And I just did it, and it's been great for me. It's gave me some peace of quiet, gave me some time to make plans for the future. So yeah, it's been good.
I mean, I guess.
Have you found? Oh, sorry.
No,
on,
go for it, Mark.
Enzo.
Go for it.
I wonder whether, particularly since quitting, and I appreciate that the COVID's given everyone a bit more headspace, but has that changed the way that you've approached the project itself? Given that you've got it's the full-time thing to do now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have to make plans now, and yeah, or at least I want to make plans, and I want to make plans for the future to do other stuff as well. And it's been giving me proper time to do a new EP as well, which I'm doing my absolute best to make the mix sound better than ever before, and just things like that. To make to put more work in the details, so that gives me a lot of space to do that. Definitely.
Do you think that there was a time when you were doing your day job before? Like, I know you've talked about this before, but do you think did you reach a point where you were thinking the job is getting in the way of the music, whereas before you might have felt that the music was getting in the way of the job? And like, how did you come to the decision? Was it the pandemic that sort of gave you that kick up the bum to say, right, it's now or never?
Yeah, that's it. It's well, I worked at a municipality, so it was a government job, so it wasn't that busy, of course. It's not like it was a commercial job. You both know.
Yeah, I've worked in that. I've worked in the local government sector before, so
yeah.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, it wasn't as stressful, but I mean, at times it definitely was, and especially when I was planning to do a tour or to play a show or even to finish an album. Sometimes, whenever I came home, I just didn't feel like doing anything, but I just had to do it because it was my only time to create music or to do something with my music. So yeah, when the pandemic came, things kept going good and even better than before, like with stream-wise and everything. And I just thought, okay, I'm reasonably young right now. Let me just give it a try and quit my job. Try and make it a full-time job with my music, and just see what happens.
It's really interesting.
That's been great so far. Yeah,
it's really interesting because the scene is like, people will have lots of different opinions about the state of the synthwave scene and where it's going, and perhaps we'll ask you about that a bit later on. But I can vouch for the feeling of kind of nervous trepidation of quitting your day job to make something in music full time. So I can relate to you there. But do you just feel like a weight is lifted off your shoulders?
Oh yeah, definitely. Now, like I said, I had never experienced it as being stressful, but now that I quit my job, it's been so much easier. So it's there's not so much pressure anymore. Whenever I don't feel like making music, I just don't make music. I go cycling or whatever. So that's been great, definitely.
Wonderful. I guess that's the bit people sort of forget about, isn't it? That you know, through Twitter or Instagram or whatever it might well be, people they're always asking when the next album is or when the next music's coming, or
even when I just released something.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Enzo with the with all of the represses he has to do for Night Drive. Like he'll do it 5 times, and then there needs to be more. We can talk about it again after, because I still get so many emails. It's unreal just how many people request that. And you know, we had this chat last time we released Faded Touch. It was we did 500 copies, and luckily I pressed 2 variants at once so that we could hold back one for when the repress was due. But they sold so quickly that people are immediately wanting more. So we've kind of recognized that, I think, this time with Running in the Dark, and we'll talk about Running in the Dark in a little while as well. But
of course.
It's crazy. The demand just continues to be there, and as Martin said, you must get a lot of DMs asking you, you know, when's this coming out? When's that coming out? Are you going to do another album? But you've teased it. You've teased your new EP. We could talk about that. You've teased it.
Yeah.
You said, who's ready for a Night Drive style EP? So tell us a bit about this.
Yeah, well, ever since I made Night Drive, it's been received so great by so many people. And after that, I made Faded Touch together with Josh, which was a little bit more romantic. But then I thought, okay, I want to make something fully instrumental this time. And that sounds like Night Drive. So I started working on that, and it's finished now. So.
Amazing. So is this more kind of in the vein then of Running in the Dark, in the sense that it's not got collaborations in the way that you've done before? It's the Dreamwave style that we know and love. And are there any surprises in there? Have you changed style at all, or?
Yeah, well, at least I tried. It's still Timecop 1983, of course, but it's less dreamy this time and more aggressive or danceable if you want. So it's a little darker than my other work. Just like Night Drive had some romantic songs on it as well. So more in the style of On the Run and Static with the Midnight. A little darker and it's a style I've always loved, and I just want to give it a try, and hopefully people will like it too. Are
you ready to unveil the title or any other information, or do you want to keep that under wraps for a little while longer?
No, yeah, it's fine. I knew this. Well, I thought this question was coming, and I was still doubting between names, but I just decided it's going to be called Multiverse.
Nice. There we are. World exclusive. Yeah. World exclusive.
Yep.
Although it feels like it sort of pressured him into making a decision, though.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes that's what you need, isn't it? Because you can be umming and ahhing about what to choose, and then someone slaps a deadline right in front of your face, and there you go. It's decision. Multiverse.
Yeah, that's what I needed. So thank you for that, guys.
That's no problem, man. Can we take you back to your origin story, as it were? I'm interested. I'm sure loads of people will be interested in your musical background. So the kind of things that got you into music, not necessarily production, but the things that you listened to when you were younger that are inspirational to you. And then perhaps, what was it that got you into production?
Yeah. Well, I didn't, or I don't have a musical background in learning to play instruments or whatever. And I mean, I cannot play the piano, or I cannot read a note or write a note. But I've always listened to music. My parents listened to everything from the 60s till the 80s when I was young, and I just love music, but not in a way that I would, in a technical way. But when I was 12, I had a friend who said he was making music on his computer, and he showed me the program. I believe it was called Screen Tracker in MS-DOS, but I'm not entirely sure anymore. But he showed me this, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. And computers were relatively new, and I was playing some video games, and he showed me this, and I was like, okay, I just want to do this as well. And so he gave me a few floppies, installed it on my computer, and I just gave it a try and just put some random notes in, and it sounded really, really bad. But it's a shame that I don't have those songs anymore. That would be cool. But
I think there's a lot of people though that don't have that kind of what's the word? The technical accomplished musical training background.
The formal training.
Yeah, the formal training. That's the word I was looking for. But how do you come up with melodies then? Do you literally just play by ear?
Yeah,
because I think that's just really impressive.
Well, thank you. But it's just all by ear. It's not very often that I have a specific melody in my head, but I just I have a bass line that I heard in another song or whatever. I program it into the computer, and then I just start playing with my keyboard until a melody that comes up that sticks in my head.
Wow.
And I always think that if a melody sticks in my head, then it's a good melody.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But with that in mind, then does it feel quite strange that people would consider you a pioneer of the dreamwave genre, as it were, in the sense that they kind of suggest that you're the person that where this originated from, and yet it's you kind of ultimately just playing around with what sounds good.
It's absolutely crazy.
That's not me minimizing it.
No, of course.
It's just it's crazy to think of it like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. It still baffles me every day. I mean, that I could have made this my day job. I would never expected it when I first installed that program on my computer. I couldn't have a dream of it. But yeah, I'm just a guy sitting in a studio making some music, and it's nothing special.
But it comes from a feeling. It comes from a feeling, right? I mean, you must be channeling an emotion, because it's all very So we were having this conversation earlier on. I'm sidetracking myself here, but we were having this conversation about what synthwave is, and there aren't really any clear rules, but there are a few hooks that you could hang yourself on. So it could be that it's video game nostalgia. It could be that it's just straight retro. It could be that you're singer-songwriter, like inspired by the kind of pop acts. There's a lot of vocal synthwave out there that's clearly inspired by some of the big bands from the era, but there's no defined rule. But yet you've somehow then come up with a subgenre of synthwave, dreamwave, that you pretty much pioneered and are probably the most recognized purveyor of. And what does that come from? What is the feeling? What's the feeling that's behind it?
Yeah, it's not like intentionally like an emotion that I try to create or whatever, but it's just nostalgia, I think. It's just when I try to make a melody or with like a track with everything in it, then if it gives me a feeling of nostalgia, I think it's good enough. But I don't think I'm a pioneer. I mean, I was inspired when I started making synthwave or dreamwave by FutureSounds and College, and I mean those guys were much earlier than me, so it's crazy that people see me as a pioneer when I don't think I am. So
I mean, it's very humble of you to kind of self-reflect in that way. I think FutureSounds has a very distinct sound as well, and I think the artists like NPM Soundtracks from back in the day
definitely
have got a bit of that vibe too. But I think it's fair to say that off the back of your first couple of really big releases, there's a lot of artists, and this isn't a criticism, but there's a lot of kind of copycat or influence that's been taken. And maybe you've been influenced by College beforehand, but that kind of diffusion throughout has permeated. And now I think when people hit, it's like we were saying before, Journeys is in the canon of must listen for synthwave. It's one of those albums that stands the test of time, a gateway album kind of thing. I mean, that's something. You don't need to be humble about that, I don't think. Or maybe it's nice for someone to tell you that without you needing to...
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, no, but thank you so much. And, like I said, for me, it's nothing special. It's just something I created, and then people see it this way. It's just crazy. Yeah.
Is there any specific thing that you're nostalgic for? Is it a feeling of like summer as a kid, or is it TV programs or games that you were into when you were younger? Like, do you channel it in any way?
No, not especially, but I can always remember like this cassette we had in the car when I was younger, which my parents had, and whenever we went on vacation to France or Spain, we always had this cassette on with the Rick Ashley on it, Ghostbusters and Abracadabra by Steve Miller.
That album was my first ever record.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And I well, it's not that I try to recreate that feeling, but it's something that's always in the back of my head, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what's fascinating about it is that the idea that regardless of influence, people kind of almost subconsciously start to want to invoke whatever it was you were feeling when you're in the back of the car listening to those songs, and the fact that then the people that listen to your music are able to relate it to whatever their own
and that's what's great about music.
Completely different. It's just that kind of those tropes, or however people decide to interpret music, it does that, which I think that's always been the nice thing about music that's based in that kind of sphere, isn't it?
Definitely.
But also you may have access to these stats from your Spotify artist account, for example, or just from seeing people at events. The age range is fairly diverse.
It is.
Of listeners. I mean, obviously you have a lot of people who might be closer to our age who remember the 80s firsthand in some way as children. But then you've also got young people who are kind of nostalgic for the same thing, but they couldn't possibly have experienced it first time around. And things like Stranger Things come along.
Yep.
And it's like the magic of those, are they Spielberg films? I mean, John Hughes films from the 80s. It pulls people in who weren't even around at the time.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal.
And I mean, with music as well. Sometimes people send me messages that my music helped them when they were struggling and whatever. And I think that's what's great about music. You can just create your own story with it, and that it can relate to yourself. And that's a great thing. I mean, sometimes when I make a song, I don't have a particular idea with it or whatever. but people just make it into a story or into something that may help them. And that's just the
people who add the visuals to the YouTube videos that go viral. You know, like my appreciation of Journeys comes from the new retrowave upload. So it's the picture in the background, and this is the same with a lot of those early tracks. Yeah. So I can never disassociate that image from my mind when I'm playing that album.
Yeah, and to be honest, I never ever watched Thundercats before Journeys came out, before New Retrowave uploaded it. I've heard of it before, but I never seen anything of it. So I was like, what is this weird picture? And then I found out it was Thundercats. So that's crazy. I mean, this is an example too, that this evokes something when I don't even realize it, or the artist doesn't even realize it. So,
Can we ask you about Journeys? Because I said this already, I think it's one of the essentials, kind of gateway albums. It certainly was for me, and I know I hassled you for a long, long time to get vinyl out on that record. But it's one of those, it's got amazing tracks, it's got great collaborations, it's a long album that never outstays its welcome. It just seems to be the perfect package. What was in your mind when you created it? I mean, is there any interesting stories to tell about that coming together?
I wanted to make it like a dreamier album. Then I had a first collaboration with, I think it was Dana Jean Phoenix. That was the first on Dreams. And then I thought, okay, I need some more vocal songs on it. Then I got a message by Per Rinaldo, who was like the lead singer of this Swedish metal band called Skitark, and it's crazy. And I had Lost in Your Eyes out before as well, but just as an instrumental. And then he sang on it, and then I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is what the album needs. Yeah. And from there, I just started working in that style, and until Journeys was finished. So it's not that I had like a particular idea in my head, but I wanted something dreamy, and
have you felt like a big growth from that album being released or being uploaded to New Retrowave? I mean, was that one of the moments where you felt your sort of dream, that process towards being where you are now of quitting your job and making this full time? Did you feel like that was one of the steps on the journey?
Yeah, definitely. But it was never my dream to make music professionally. But then I saw how well it did, and I was totally surprised by it. And especially when New Retrowave picked it up, it went so fast, and so many people sent me messages about how they liked it, and it gave me so much inspiration to continue making this music. So it was definitely an album that helped me a lot, and which gave me like positive vibes to continue making music. Definitely.
I mean, it's a bit like then the people who then maybe potentially first heard it through the record release that you guys did. It almost like it was then a bit like Kate Bush and Stranger Things. It's being reintroduced to an audience who may not have heard of it or may not have been aware of it, who maybe started with Reflections or started with a later album, because people don't always dig back, do they? As much as maybe they should do. But it definitely feels like there were some people that were kind of then discovering it through the release you did with these guys, which again is nice. It just makes it kind of gives it a new lease of life, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I'm really, really happy that you pushed me, or that you nagged me about it. You didn't nag me.
No, I did nag you. You
can say nagging. He probably did.
Mate, I think I emailed you a handful of times. I saw you at events. I was always polite, I hope. But
definitely.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have said no, of course.
No, of course. But I mean, it's interesting because you've said in the past that you're not really into physical media yourself.
No, yeah.
You listen digitally.
So that's the crazy thing. That's why it was such a surprise that all like vinyls and CDs and even mini discs and cassettes are doing so great. I'm not into physical music at all. So it's a completely different world for me. But I mean, I'm so happy that you asked me and that we did it. So it turned out great.
It really did.
I think I can remember the days of when the first Reflections release on Urban Road, and it was really only available at night arcade events.
Yeah.
And so it was super rare. Everybody wanted one. People were trying to grab it. And then I think you did an event in London where you guys brought some over.
I was there.
I'm going to go grab one of those. You out that
That's
one.
where I met Jordy the first time, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it was the same for me, actually.
Yeah, Josh
and,
Iverson was there
I
as
think
well.
it was, yeah.
Was it Clapham,
Josh
Clapham
Iverson
Grand?
was there. Clapham Grand.
Yeah, shouts
That's
to
the one.
Stu
Yeah, I
from
think it
Outland.
was.
Yeah, that was a
Yep.
great
It was
show.
Outland.
That was a great show.
It was. But it was like that album was everyone's kind of everyone's holy grail that they were searching for, and until it was available online, and then at that point it just sold out like crazy. But I can remember thinking, well, there was no other way of getting it unless it was because the website wasn't really up and running at that time.
They were just starting out.
Yeah, but then you fast forward, what's that now? 5 years or so, and the synthwave vinyl market's gone crazy. Well, it's paying for his meals for sure,
Yeah.
isn't
Hey,
it? So it's
steady
doing
now.
all right.
Steady. Yeah, I've got my copy of my signed copy of Reflections from that night on the wall. Now I won't move
really?
my computer around because it'll make loads of noise. But yeah. It was a great night. It was the first live synthwave event I ever went to.
Oh, cool.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was a really good night. Really good night.
Future sounds.
Yeah, so just on the sort of area of live events, and obviously this sort of touches on running in the dark and how you'd produce those for live events. I was kind of interested in how, number one, how you found that transition in the first place from creating music, which sounds like it was just a kind of, as a hobby that was something that you were enjoying doing as a side piece, but then how where the kind of market came for the request for you to do live, because you've toured the US, you've done you've done a fair bit of it. I think I was just interested to know how that transition happened, and how you felt about it the first time, really.
Yeah. Well, I think it was right after I released my very first album, Childhood Memories, and this guy from Holland, from The Hague, he sent me a message that he was doing events in The Hague here. And he asked me if I wanted to do the live shows. And at first I said, no, this is just a fun thing for me. I don't feel comfortable, and this is not for me. But he just kept on asking. And in the end, I was like, yeah, well, why not? Let's give it a try. I'll buy a laptop, get Ableton Live, and see if I enjoy playing live. And I did my first show, and it was totally crazy. It was really busy, but I didn't notice anything around me. I didn't know what time I came on, didn't know what time I finished. In the end, I heard, or like a day after, I heard there were people dancing behind me, but I never saw them. I was so focused and so nervous. So, that was a crazy experience, but I was happy that I did it in the end. And I felt like I wanted to make some songs that were special or like exclusive to my live shows. And some of the songs on Running in the Dark were made like that. And then I came with Dimensions, which was like a tutorial for Sonic Academy, where I explained how I made the track and things like that. And then I thought, okay, why not release it as an EP? And that's how it was born.
It's crazy that that's the origin story for Dimensions. Like that, I think that might be my favorite individual Timecop track. And I followed that, or I certainly remember reading the stuff about that tutorial. Because the video, and on YouTube, the video is like someone's got LED lights on them. They're skiing down a slope. And it's there's something captivating about that. Like, again, I'm unable to disassociate that image from it. But I can't imagine, just to think that could have been just left for only students of this tutorial, people looking to get into this kind of electronic production, and we would have been starved of it. And I saw comments. I've seen comments over the last couple of days with people saying, finally, I'll have Dimensions on vinyl. So
and I thought people would have forgotten about Running in the Dark. I mean, it hasn't done so well as other EPs, but apparently Dimensions is something special indeed, and it's really great that we're able to do it now. So thank you again for that.
But I think people are quite excited to hear it's got most of the tracks are quite upbeat. For people of anyone who's ever seen you play live, there's almost certainly they're going to have heard one or more of those tracks played.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like Martin was saying before, not everyone looks back on the back catalogue. They see what comes in their inbox there and then they listen to that. They love that, but they don't necessarily explore back, but they'll have heard these tracks. And I think it's nice to showcase it with new art. Tom from Thom Ockham's Laser designed that cover art, and it's really nice as well. That brings it.
It looks nice.
Brings it kind of a new life as well. And yeah, I think that's. I mean, it's interesting that it's more upbeat perhaps than some of your other stuff as well. But yeah. People are excited, Jordy. People are excited about Friday.
Good to hear. Nice.
It's going to go in a snap as well, isn't it? You know it.
Well, I should probably
they'll be
say
excited at 5 past and upset by 15:15.
I should say at this point that we have got 2 variants and we have got 1,000 copies available at the point of sale. So that should be enough. It might not be. We can always repress more. We never want to leave people. We don't create full scarcity. It's just my lockup can only fit so many records in it at one time. And it's always hard to judge. There's a lot of money invested, and we know that vinyl queues are like 6 to 9 months long now. So things aren't as quick and straightforward as they used to be. But
is it still that bad?
It's getting better. It's getting better.
Oh, it's getting better.
Yeah, if you want to talk offline about your new EP, we can have a chat after.
Oh yeah, of course. I'd love to.
I've got a question for you, which kind of fits into what you were, where you're going with the future, and perhaps your new EP, but that's more instrumental. But you've worked with. So this is the questions from Rob Dyson from Forever Synth. He's on the panel sometimes with this pod as well. He's part of the team. He wanted to ask about, he used the word muse. So you work with Josh a lot over the years, and you've worked with a lot of collaborators, but there's something about the collaboration with Josh that you've kept coming back to. I guess he was kind of interested in what is it about that relationship that you think works, and how did it come about? And maybe because he has a very distinctive kind of style, Josh. And perhaps you can tell us a bit about that relationship.
Yeah, I don't even remember how we got in touch the first time. I think it was through SoundCloud that he sent me a message, and I was working on Reflection back then. And you wanted me to send him some ideas of tracks, and then Let's Talk was made in the end. But yeah, Josh is just a great musician, singer, of course. But as a musician, he's so great. He just without maybe talking, we know what the other one's feeling about a track, and we get the best out of each other, I think. And I mean, with other collaborators, I've worked together flawlessly as well, and they've been great too. But with Josh, it's just something special, and he's always up for working with me or with other people. So yeah, he's just a great guy, great musician, and we work together really well. So
it's clear that your sounds complement each other, definitely. And I remember seeing the show you did where you were supporting FM84. I can't remember the venue.
Yeah, I think it was in London as well.
Yeah, it was something Brixton, Electric Brixton. Yeah, that one.
Yep.
Yeah. Huge venue.
Yeah, it was.
And there is no doubt that having that kind of extra element of live performance, so whether it's a singer or a guitarist, or in Josh's case, both, it really does add something visually on the stage. And I can see why you're looking at sort of building a live performance that works with him as a regular partner, as a regular team kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, look at FM84 with Ollie Wright. I'm not going to compare myself with them because Ollie and Cole or something else, but yeah, it just works. It's when I'm on stage just by myself, then I don't feel comfortable, first of all, but second, it might not be as interesting. And with Josh as a singer and a guitarist, it's just an element that adds a lot, and which I really love to do in the future. So yeah, I'm happy that he wants to do it as well.
The mention of FM and Ollie, it reminds me of I was lucky enough for that night it must have been about 3 or 4 years in Brooklyn, where I think it was a midnight show.
The midnight,
it was the Midnight, and it was you, and it was Nikki Flores, and it was Ollie, and it was FM, all on the stage at the same time. And I can remember thinking, probably not going to see a show like this again. So I was pretty tipsy at the time, but I remember got a few pictures of you too.
Yeah, of course.
And so you got everyone in a row, and I thought, there's no way you're going to get all these guys in a room at the same time. But particularly with Nikki being there, like it was. That was one of those. That was one of those huge highlights. That
was a really special moment.
Yeah, amazing.
It just lined up because Cole had a show like the day after in Brooklyn as well, and me and the Midnight had the show. And Tim from the Midnight, he just asked us all if we wanted to join them on stage for the last song, and we all said yes. And it was absolutely amazing, so special. Yeah.
We've got some questions that have come from followers of TimeSlave, and I'm going to start with this one's linked to what we were just talking about, actually, from Desperio, who asks, my question would have been, what was it like to work with Tim and Tyler from the Midnight?
Yeah, that's been a dream ever since I heard them for the first time, and I don't remember how we got in touch, actually. But they were working on the Nocturnal EP of theirs. And I honestly don't remember, but we started talking about working on a track together. And they asked me to send them some ideas. Then I sent them the first idea for a River of Darkness. And it was just a basic melody. And Tim started working on that, and we had a instrumental, I guess. But yeah, I said I definitely want Tyler's voice on it as well, because at first Tim wasn't planning on doing that, and I said, yeah, we definitely need Tyler's voice on there as well. Then it'd be a full The Midnight track with me as a featured artist. And then he sent me the first version with the saxophone on it and with Tyler's voice, and that was such an amazing feeling that. It sounded so much better than the idea that I had at first. Of course, the basics were still there, the melody, but what Tim and Tyler added to it, and with the saxophone as well, it's just amazing. Amazing.
I mean, you've done. We've said this before. You've done a lot of collaborations. Like, apart from Josh and apart from the Midnight, who have you enjoyed the most and to work with? And do you have like a preference for? I imagine in the last couple of years, certainly you'd have been sending files backwards and forwards. Have you ever worked with anyone face to face in the studio together?
Never.
Wow. Okay.
Never. Yeah, that's the craziest thing. And before touring, I never met anyone I worked with as well. So that's totally crazy that we can work on something together like this over the internet and never even see somebody. But yeah, it's... I mean, I've worked with a lot of people, liked them all, and of course there's some songs that never came out with vocals as well. And yeah, I just tell the people honestly, why I'm not choosing to release it. But mostly it's just whenever I work with somebody, I send them my files. It's instantly, it's great. It's crazy that it works like that.
And then I suppose when you go on tour, you must just have to get a rehearsal space for a couple of days beforehand, and then...
Yeah, you should. And but I never did, actually. It's just people that sang on it, rehearsed at home or in the studio.
Straight into the sound check, just like that.
Yeah, the first rehearsal was at the sound check, and that's something I've been talking to with Josh as well. And especially if we're doing like this full show, then we definitely need to do some proper rehearsals. Yeah. Like rent a studio or a venue and do some rehearsals. But until now, it has been great. I mean, the people that I worked with are so talented that they can just go on stage and perform. So
that was going to be my point, because I think there was a this is going back somewhere now. I think I saw you in Darmstadt in Germany for the Miami.
You do travel a lot,
Miami.
Martin, don't you?
Yeah, you do, man.
I used to get around. There was definitely a year where I think I went.
You
to
and
most
Charlie
of
just
your
go
things
to
and we were
everything.
flying around.
Crazy.
Yeah, but Dana Jean was there, and if I remember rightly, I think you did Dreams together. And Dana's one of those people where you can tell there was no need to practice it. She would have just jumped up. She would have remembered all the lyrics.
Yeah.
You know that was years and years and years after you guys made that track. But she makes it look. But you both make it just look super easy, right?
No, yeah, it's crazy. Dana Jean is so talented, and she's been a professional musician for so long. So yeah, I never doubted if she was able to do it live, and yeah. But it's always a little. How do you say it? You always have to see how it turns out. But yeah, like I said, until now, everything's been great. So I'm happy with that.
Cool, man. Well, that question was from Stu Mosford. So thanks for that question, Stu. My personal favourite, I've had visions of this. This would work so well. I don't know about you, Martin, what you think. Josh Iverson singing on Timecop would be just unreal. Like I've thought about this so many times in the past. I'm sure
I think
you know.
you told me. I
think we did. Yeah, it was just one of those things. Yeah. Everyone's so busy. Maybe we haven't pushed it before, but man, I really think that he would complement your sound so well, or the boys would complement your sound so well, and they play live as well, and they'd probably be good enough to just jump on stage with you.
Yeah,
something.
I'm up for it.
I'm touting it. Yeah, let me push that one anyway. We got another question. Blair Carlton. This is a good question. Which one of your albums are you most proud of?
I think Night Drive. That's the one that I like most. I mean, every song that I worked with people on it's great. But I think Night Drive is just the best for me. Yeah, and especially with the song with the Midnight and with the Bad Dreamers on it, Back to You.
Yeah, that is a tune.
And On the Run, those songs have been doing really, really well. And it's not Sorry, what?
No, go on. Sorry.
Oh, no, yeah, I was going to say that it's not that I'm basing it on the success of the album, but I just like the sound of it. And it isn't as dreamy, but still a little dreamy. And yeah, I think that's a good combination.
There's something in your signature sound, if there can be such a thing, that if you hear the first few bars, and I know it's one of your songs, and I appreciate that there'll be more dreamy stuff, there'll be faster and slower stuff, and there'll be the slightly darker stuff like Night Drive. But I think there's something in your signature sound. I mean, I know we had a lot of people asking, so I won't attribute this question to anyone specifically, but quite a few people were asking, like, what's your process? Like, how do you like have such a consistent vibe?
Yeah, well, it's just I use the same instruments a lot, the same patches of those instruments, and one might say it makes everything sound the same, but yeah, I just see it as my signature sound. And
so like Juno emulators, for example, like the TAL.
Yeah, TAL. I use a lot. I use a lot of a JX8P emulator called PG8X. It's a free soft synth.
Making notes. Making notes.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. It's in every song that I do, and Zebra I use a lot by Yui, Diva. So mostly they're all emulators of old school analog synthesizers.
Do you own any old school analog synthesizers?
Oh yeah, maybe a bit too much.
There's definitely something behind.
I can see some.
Yeah,
this is a listening experience for people. But if we describe what's behind Jordy, there's some kit there.
Yeah, there's a Moog Voyager.
Nice.
A Lisa's Andromeda, and I have 25 hardware synthesizers, so it's gotten a bit out of hand.
Oh,
but it's a nice hobby.
My brother with his guitars.
Yep.
Wow. But do you incorporate them into your albums as well? Do you play live and then chart MIDI perhaps? And
Well, with MIDI, of course, yeah. But not as much, because I always find like recording hardware synthesizers a bit time-consuming, because every time I want to change something, you just have to re-record it, edit it, and maybe even remake the patch. So I would say it's like 90% software and 10% hardware gear.
And you're an FL Studio guy, yeah?
Yeah. I'm in FL Studio still.
Awesome. But
that's something that people say it's not professional, you should switch and whatever, but it's something that I've known for so long. I've been working with it ever since the very first version, so I know it inside out, and I can do stuff.
I think I've found most people that use FL swear by FL, and I know it's got its limitations, or people have their issues with it, but those that love it.
Yeah,
I'm just
that's
happy
it.
to kind of crack on and keep using it in the way they do.
I found FL Studio much more intuitive, making beats and stuff, like setting up patterns in the early days. And I used to use it to make jungle and hardcore tracks, like early rave style tracks. That was something I was really into. But I find Logic is much easier to work with now for that kind of thing. And so I've ended up transferring most of my work, especially because my brother and I do quite a lot of vaporwave production. I transferred most of my workflow to Logic these days, because we can work more easily between sharing projects with each other. But I still love FL Studio. I'm not sure if I can remember it like the back of my hand anymore, but yeah.
I mean, in the end, it all does the same, but like in Logic, it's a little more better sounding, and it's a little more streamlined and everything, especially when you're working with audio, like external audio.
Yeah, that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah. But I mean, whatever you use, if the music sounds good, it sounds good, I always say. So it doesn't matter what you use.
Cool. Well, I think you've kind of answered Apollo 1138's question as well.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah.
Martin, I'll let you ask this one. This one's a cracking question, I think. The Sea Otter 85 question.
Yeah. So someone who I'd like to think was probably influenced by your name, Sea Otter 85, asks, which vocalist from the 80s, dead or alive today, would you have most wanted to work with on a song or even produce an album for them?
Oh, wow. That's a really, really hard question. I think, not especially from the 80s, but Michael Jackson is one of my all-time favorites still. And it would be amazing to work with him. But I mean, I would say Michael Jackson. Yeah,
it's a good answer. To be fair,
it's not an easy question. Let's be
honest.
No,
it's not. We've thrown you under the bus there. We've put you right on the spot.
Yeah, thank you. No,
I guess the one thing that I might have expected you to say, or I think that works quite well as a comparison, is Josh Daly with the kind of like Bryan Adams kind of reference or comparison. I think works. But
people say that a lot. That his voice sounds like
he's got
like
kind
Bryan
of a gravelly
Adams.
voice, isn't he? It's a powerful, gravelly, like soft rock voice. That's how I envisage it. It reminds me of some of the records my mum used to play when I was younger. Like, he doesn't sound like the Eagles, but I can imagine him kind of transplanted nice and easily into that kind of adult-orientated rock style stuff. You listened to a lot of that, Martin, didn't you?
I quite like my my yacht rock.
MOR. Yacht rock's amazing.
It's timeless, isn't it? And you never. It's from a certain period where. I'm not going to say everything in that period was good, but it's all pretty agreeable. I've got a lot of my record collection is kind of the Michael McDonald's and around that sort of time, because that's just lovely music on a Saturday morning, just to slide on and just leave it be. REO Speedwagon's another one as well, that sort of era of music. And there's loads of there are a few artists out there. I think this is why we're going off piece a little bit here, but sort of artists like Yate being influenced by that side of the 70s and 80s is creating not necessarily synthwave, but creating 80s inspired music, which is nothing like we've heard before. It doesn't go down that kind of electronic route as much as it goes down the idea of the yacht rock adult orientated piece, and there's room for everybody.
But that's kind of
definitely
I was going to
on the yacht.
There's room for everyone. It depends how big the yacht is, but I think so. There's definitely room on the yacht for everyone. It kind of leads me to, because obviously we're going to ask you what you think of the future of the scene, but the fact that Martin's just touched on it there's so many different styles and subgenres. The breadth of of approaches that people are taking to making what we call collectively synthwave is so wide. I mean, where do you see the future of the scene?
Yeah, I think it's great that there's so many styles that it's ever expanding, and but sometimes I can't even keep up myself, and that's another part of it. But I think it's just great that there's so many people making synthwave now, and like you said, there's room for everyone. It's still a pretty tight scene, but it's getting bigger and bigger, and I think it's a great evolution. I love it.
When we started recording the pod, I said I was visiting my friend Cole from Retro Reverb Records in Palermo.
Oh, yeah.
He lives in Sicily, and we went into a trainer shop. I needed to get some flip flops for the beach, and I heard one of your tracks playing in this sports shop there, and I was just thinking, like, that's quite like, you know, even in itself, you know, like we said about like, people like Survive getting picked up for the Stranger Things soundtrack, but just walking into a JD Sports or its equivalent in Palermo. It's real good consumer music, Jordy. It made me spend. I spent more money on flip flops than I've ever spent before. I think.
All right.
We need to like hone this and start speaking to shopkeepers. So I think it puts you in the right frame of mind to just part with your money.
Well, if they part with their money as well, then
for sure.
Yeah,
no, of course.
Just play half the track.
I wonder if they licensed it from somewhere or whether they just had their Spotify account.
Yeah.
So you know, it's either one stream or a better kind of revenue. I'm not sure. You'll be able to look into your accounts and find out. But
that's crazy that they play it.
But either way, it's nice, isn't it? Like you say, you're away from home, you're in a foreign city, and then suddenly you pick up some music that you know and you like, and you think, actually, it's I've had similar where I was in a restaurant in Soho having dinner, and then midnight came on. And it was just bizarre, but you know, it's not as out there as Palermo, but it's creeping its way in here and there, which I like to see.
It is. It's crazy. I was in Thailand 2 years ago, and I was on a boat. I did an introduction dive lesson, and I started talking to the instructor, and we talked about music. And somehow synthwave came up, and he said, "I listened to a lot of synthwave," and I was like, "Oh, maybe you know me. I'm Timecop 1983." And he was like, "What? No, I listen to your music all the time. That's crazy." Like in Thailand, there's a diving instructor that listens to synthwave and to my music.
But it's mad because we obviously pack up all of the records that we sell for you. So when I do the spreadsheets, like this is really boring. I can't believe I'm talking about Excel spreadsheets. But when we put together the kind of list of places that we're sending records to, it's far-flung territories. You're selling records to fans all over the world. And, you know, it's a scene that's kind of been born in the internet age. It bridges the gap between these far-flung places, and that's quite incredible in itself.
It definitely is. I mean, if it wasn't for the internet, then we all three wouldn't be anywhere.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree with that.
Very true.
We're still working on our government jobs, and
don't say that. Long live TimeSlave Recordings and this wonderful hobby that has become a job. Wow.
Yep.
And thank you, Jordy, for your part in helping it become real.
Well, thank you for helping part of it, and Martin, of course, as well, in making my dream come true.
See, he's a lovely guy. Everyone knows you're a lovely guy anyway, but I think it's always testament to the you're a very humble guy as well, Jordy. And
we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. Is there anything you wanted to get off your chest before we wrap things up? Any news you wanted to give to your fans, or any shouts you wanted to make for people?
No, I mean, Running in the Dark is coming out soon, so hopefully people will like that on vinyl. And the Multiverse EP that I'm working on, that I hope to release the end of August. Perfect. So hopefully people can wait a little bit. But I still have a lot to do to finish it. So I hope it will be the best sounding album or EP that I've produced, because I put so much time into it, and hopefully it shows.
Well, I know people will be dying to hear it. So perhaps when you've got some tracks that are ready for public air, and you can send a couple our way, and we can give them a bit of a play for listeners of the pod. But thanks again, Jordy. Always appreciated. Hope that we'll see you perhaps later this year at live events. Hope so. And we'll be in touch. And just great to catch up.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you again as well. It's been great
Thanks, man.
talking to you.
And that was our interview with Jordy, aka Timecop 1983. Don't forget, this Friday on the 1st of July, we've got Running in the Dark out on TimeSlave Recordings at 5 p.m. UK. There are 2 vinyl variants. We've got cassette, we've got mini disc. It's a classic album, so make sure you're there at 5 p.m. No complaints. We will repress if it sells out quickly, so don't worry too much. But yeah, as ever with Timecop vinyl, it's best to get in early just in case. Moving on from that, we have, well, we touched on this earlier on. OSC's, he kind of introduced me to this guy, Nevermann. I'd not heard of him before. Super talented producer. They work together. They have really like, it's quite an intimate collaboration.
Symbiotic.
They work very closely together. Yeah, they really are, very much so. And Steve OSC was saying to us, you have to listen to this guy. This guy is so talented. This album's an absolute banger, and that was the last one that we did with him, Gentleman. But we're going to be doing, we're going to work with him again on the upcoming album. But he's got a really cool track which is out now with Dana Jean Phoenix. Rob, you've played it. Did you put it on the? Was this featured on the Forever?
It was, and I played this version. There's a B-side version, like the Silk remix, which OSC said he sort of steps away from the 80s and done a sort of distinctively 70s sound to it. But the main radio edit is this one that you're going to play. Yes, and it was on the Forever New Release playlist. It's great, man. Everything Dana Jean does is fantastic. She's got such a great vocal, so strong and clear and clean.
Well, let's play out this week with a new track from Nevermann featuring Dana Jean Phoenix. This is Living Without You.